it been put in front of me like, hey, go to film school, pay $100,000, be $100K in debt, or don't, and figure this shit out and become a film. Like I think I genuinely would have taken that route, because it was about my, was it junior or senior year, where I was like, Mom, I don't think I'm gonna finish school. I'm just gonna go do this film stuff. Cause at that time I had started shooting the music videos for Kyle, Futuristic, Samson, Sam King, DY. And like, I started like growing a buzz, and I was like filming videos and starting to get paid and make money. And like, and I was just like, I don't need to be here. This film school.
It's Tom.
It's Jake. You already know. It's pretty spot on. All right, ready?
We are back for another quick take.
Oh yeah, I should have probably nice, popped it there. Cheers, my guy.
For those listening, we are drinking a couple IPAs.
Yes, sir.
For context, I live in Los Angeles. Jake lives in Arizona. And I flew in this morning at like 7 a.m. to record a bunch of these, and I'm literally leaving tonight. So we are on episode 4 and
of the day. Just
to kind of, ease into this spicy episode, we figured we'd kind of spice it up with some hazy IPAs.
Little tall boys.
But yeah, today we are talking about film school and the various experiences that you and I had, good and bad. And it's 2021. Heck, maybe at the time of this airing, it might be 2022.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it worth it to still go there? You know what I mean? I think that was kind of the conversation, and then the topic, if you will, and see where it takes us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just think, film school, that question is still very much a hot topic with a lot of people, especially young coming up, obviously. You get the question in your DMs. I get it all the time. It's one of the reasons we built, our online cinematography, lighting, chorus program. So much of just everything today is moving towards online, learning, schooling. So much of even big colleges is like a lot of courses and of the curriculums are online and aren't, basically in the actual classroom now. I know even when I went to school years, 2008 to 2012 at ASU, a good portion of my classes were online courses, and they were really building that out. And I can only imagine now, after the whole pandemic, that many colleges have moved to online learning. So why not, film school, and learning things
I'm sure the
pandemic
for sure shook up the university thing. But yeah, no, it's kind of insane what you can learn online. And case in point, a lot of the big things that we've done together, the big one being Prism Lens Effects, stemmed from me just doing the research online and bootstrapping it and kind of just taking it upon myself to do the manufacturing initially. And that was because I just was able to learn how to do that stuff online. You know what I mean?
Well, learn anything, all the stuff that you've figured out how to do, from the woodworking to the welding and stuff. I know you took one class for welding or something like that, but there's so much that if you want to know how to do something, you just go on YouTube and Google or whatever.
YouTube is literally the second biggest search engine in the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's the video version of Google. You know what I mean? If you think about it.
And that's where you just learn. You can learn so much in today's era where everything is also so visual based. I think, stuff like YouTube and just learning online and e-learning and courses and curriculums is just and
I'm a visual learner,
crazy.
And I think a lot of people in our space as creatives, photographers, filmmakers are visual learners. And the thing I will say in film school, or just school in general, is I've kind of self-diagnosed myself as probably a little dyslexic. I struggle to, not that I don't know how to read, I will just read a page or two in a textbook, and my brain spaces out where I'm like, oh, none of that soaked in. And some people can glance at it and that they're just different ways of learning. I learn by watching someone literally do it. If it's an instructional video or someone showing you step by step, this is how I do it. I soak that in more. That's how I absorb knowledge. You know what I mean? So videos speak to that,
Right. So going to the film school thing, before I went to ASU, and I ended up going to applying to the film program there, I was looking at schools in California that were more trade school-esque. I think one of them was the Brooks Institute, I think was a film trade school there. And obviously dream would have been USC, but one just couldn't afford that. Parents couldn't afford it. And I personally I was always in the mindset of like, I'm not going to pay for this myself. Like go out into huge debt to go to, film school. Whereas like ASU, in-state tuition, I had a partial scholarship academic wise to like a in-state school. And so it was like, for me, it's like, I'm just going to go to school here. I'll be close to home. I'm going to apply for the film program here. But like I was lucky and fortunate enough where I had the partial scholarship, and then my parents had made a deal with me where it was like, hey, whatever scholarship money you get, we'll match it. And between my partial scholarship and them matching it, school was essentially free for me because I didn't, have to pay. They covered the other half that my scholarship didn't, and it equaled up to that. And so I got lucky and fortunate where basically I was going to school at no cost to me. And so that worked out really well for me. But the other flip side of that could have been like not doing that, going to Brooks or USC or whatever, and just spending $100,000 or going into debt $100,000 to like hopefully make this a career. But I didn't go to those schools, those trade schools or this prestigious USC, and still was able to make a successful film career for myself coming out of Tempe, Arizona, off a booth film program. Sorry, ASU. It was pretty trash.
Yeah.
So, which we'll probably touch on some of my stories.
I guess let's really dive into, so you've kind of set the stage in which you entered film school.
Right.
How I entered film school, I've talked about it before. I mean, I went to Chapman for 3 years for a BFA in film production, emphasis on cinematography. Before I got into that, I actually did a couple years at a city or junior college, I guess you could call it, that had like film curriculum. It wasn't anything insane, but it at least allowed me to like kind of wet my beak, meet some people. And it was very, very low in terms of price per unit. So it's a much more affordable way to like meet people. And like, I've touched on it before, but when I first moved to LA, I had ideas of going to, USC, UCLA, Chapman, whatever. Had a few I wanted to apply to. And I kind of wanted to like, when I initially moved to LA, I was like, I don't know anybody. Maybe I'll literally do 1 year, 2 semesters at LA City College. It's like $30 or $40 per unit. I can meet some people. I can literally see if LA is going to be a good fit for me, because I would hate to like go to this school and maybe I don't even like living in Southern California. So it's kind of like a very low stakes way for me to like, take a couple of film classes. They had like film history, some cinematography stuff, nothing like high level at all. But in being at that city college, I applied to all the schools and got into Chapman and ended up going there for 3 years. So I feel like, we're both have set the stage on how we entered. I entered film school like Chapman at 2013 and graduated 2016. So I don't know, like, because I think that would give context to like how long we've been out of it. Because honestly, even if you were in school now, it might even be a completely different experience. So we're kind of speaking on film school from 2013 to 2016 era. Yours might be a little sooner.
2012,
yeah. Like, and what it did for us, pluses and minuses. So you want to kick it off? Yeah,
I think for me, so, I'm in every film school is different. It depends where you're going, but the film school at ASU, you had to apply to get into. You couldn't just like go to the program, pay for it and be in it. You literally had to do your general education for a year, like these general ed classes that they required, along with some general film classes. And then at the end of your freshman year, you had to apply to get in the film school. And to apply, you had to make a short film, write an essay, and get like references. And you had to do all 3 of those things, submit all those things. Then you went in for an interview process. And I remember going to that interview process, and I was sitting down with a guy who was waiting for his turn. He's like, oh yeah, this is my 3rd time applying. And he was like a junior and hadn't gotten in yet. And like, and I was like, I remember being like, oh damn. Like,
can you imagine just burning your whole college and just not even doing?
It's crazy. And so you had to literally apply to get in, and I got in, luckily, and obviously my, work spoke for itself and I got in. But that was the first step and process for me. But could you imagine coming from out of state or whatever and spending a year taking your college classes, knowing you want to do film, and then applying, not getting in. Okay, well now what? Now you spend another year doing what and apply, don't get in. Like,
do you want to hear something crazy? Literally, obviously I want you to continue the ASU story. But on that note, on a higher level, I had a friend, this is not even made up, went to USC, one of the most premier, if not the top 3 film schools in the nation, if not the world. Very, very renowned, insane film program. I mean, like insane studs from like big directors have gone there. Their, alumni is insane. Yeah. So very qualified. He went to USC, and same thing. First year, you just have to do general eds, and then you apply into your respective programs.
Right.
Actually, no. I think the first 3 years were all film study, film history, film theory. And then your senior year, you apply to your respective program, directing, sound, editing, cine, and you do your thesis in one of those. And he spent all 3 years doing all this stuff because he wanted to be a cinematographer. And he went to apply and like, oh, you know what? We actually already have too many cinematographers, but you can do sound. You can hold a boom. He's like, I just spent like $200,000 to hold a boom pole. Like, are you kidding me?
No.
And he literally just got
way.
into this the sound department. And I was like, he pretty much walked, because you usually go to film school to like walk away with like a thesis film that's kind of like your best showcasing of work that you can go use and get jobs with or whatever, build a reel. He left school with like nothing. You know what I mean? Like other than maybe the ability to hold a boom, which he did not want to do. So I mean, to your point, that's exactly, this is a very common thing at other film schools, is this kind of like threshold to do the thing you actually want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, I mean, I got in and I kind of right away didn't really vibe with the curriculum, the teachers, the kids. I was, I'm very much like, I guess, especially more so than like a jock. Like I was this fit, athletic dude who didn't look like a filmmaker, didn't walk, talk, act like a filmmaker, if you will. And
sure.
And I feel like that put me in a weird kind of place with the students, the teachers. And so I never really vibed with it. And I had a rough like couple years. Like I just kind of always sat in the back, did my own thing. I was off like shooting music videos with Futuristic and Kyle, and kind of meanwhile just like trudging along. But I remember there was this one point in one of the film classes, and you're talking about all these old classic movies and who's seen this and that, and you talk about it, and it came up like, who's seen this movie, and I'm like the only kid that didn't raise their hand for some
like Godfather or something.
It might have been like, I don't know, some classic film school movie that everyone like normally would have seen or whatever, and
like a Stanley Kubrick or something.
Yeah, and I just remember this one guy like trying to like rip me like, bro, you're in film school and you haven't seen this movie, and I was just like, so to be a filmmaker, I have to see this movie? Like, it's just, I don't know.
It's kind of like that previous episode we're talking about where people were just kind of snobby.
Yeah.
It's like, relax, man. Like,
chill the fuck out, bro.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I have some interesting stories. I don't know when I should dive into those versus you kind of talking about like a little bit of.
I mean, I would say, because I think we have very different experiences. Yeah. There's definitely things about my experience at film school that didn't really work for me. I honestly, I did leave. Very similar to you. I had some sponsor, or what do you call them? Like, not sponsorships. What were you saying? The
sponsorships.
No,
you
like,
lost me, bro.
No, you were saying like when you went to school, half of your tuition was covered.
Oh,
a grant or something.
Yeah, like a grant.
I had essentially, scholarship. Scholarship was the word I was searching for.
Okay.
So I had some of those, very similar situation, but I kind of got the vibe that, this might sound kind of mean, that the reason those teachers were teaching was because they couldn't really go do the thing that they maybe wanted to do.
Right.
Like, say, for instance, if you're like an elite cinematographer, if you were an elite cinematographer, you'd probably just be doing that. But the fact that they were at this school, and mind you, I had some insanely cool professors, and they were just retired, so they just taught for fun. But I had some teachers who were very bitter, and they were like in their young 30s, and kind of took it out on the students, because I kind of got the vibe that they were just like, didn't quite make it as a screenwriter, so they were just like a dick professor. And I was just like, dude, I'm sorry your like writing career didn't work, but you don't have to like, I don't know.
That's
and like would give us like harsh critiques for no reason.
That's the interesting thing with film school, is you have these basically grown adults where technically they probably didn't really make it in their career. And I don't want to say that's the same, or like that applies to all film school teachers, because my uncle, who directed big Hollywood budget movies, teaches at Azusa Pacific.
And look, I think to some degree, we'll touch on it later, but like we even have a program in which we teach, and I don't want it to sound like, oh, well, isn't that what you guys do? You guys teach. It's like, there's nothing wrong with teaching. I think teaching 100%. Is so awesome. It's like when you're a teacher that's like condescending, or kind of there's like an undertone of like, you didn't make it, so you're, I don't know. I definitely got that in film school.
I agree.
And I also will say the curriculum in certain classes was so dated. We'd be getting these textbooks, and some of the stuff was like, it was a film editing class, and we were learning about like telecine, like film to film reel stuff. And it's all good and great to know that exists, but like we don't need like weeks to talk about it. Like teach us how to use Avid or an app that could actually really help me. Like I just felt like I'm looking at a book and the publishing date's like 1998. I'm like, why am I spending like I actually did the math for my tuition. Every class was about $1,000. Because if you actually broke down your tuition of like $50K a year and you're going to a class 2 days a week, I kind of did that because there's times I skipped school a lot, and which we'll touch on later, where I'd go and like work on a job with you.
Wow, I never thought to like break it down.
And I was like, damn, like me missing this job, I was just in my head like, okay, I'm kind of like paying $1,000 to be in this class today for these 3 hours. So I'm like, damn, if I miss this job, like, is it worth it? I ended up 9 out of 10 times I'm like, yeah, fuck this class. And we'd go and do some stuff. But like, I mean, if you really break it down, isn't that kind of insane? What you would spend $1,000
per class.
Yeah, I mean, it might be a little plus or minus. If anything, since 2016, I bet tuition's gone way up.
Yeah,
but it's nuts, dude. Like, I would think you have $1,000 for like a master class or something.
Before we dive into some stories and stuff, what was your student, like your debt coming out of film school then?
I had, very similar to you, the scholarships.
Yeah, scholarships.
Halfly cover it. And then my folks helped me cover the other 25%, and then the other 25 I took on student debt.
And that 25% total,
I think I ended up leaving for 3 years with like $26,000 in student loans.
I got you.
And I paid them down pretty aggressively. It's funny, the minimum payment when you leave is like $200 a month. And I think they know that because a lot of students are broke. So like when I finally set up the account, kind of like your mortgage dashboard, it's like, here's your interest to debt ratio. And I was like, F this, and just would do like $1,000 a month and just paid it off. But dude, there's probably some people who literally pay it off their whole life.
Yeah. No, there are, I mean, for sure. Like I know Will Rouse, like to this day, he's still paying his student loan debt down because like, it's just like,
so you didn't have any?
Me?
Yeah.
I had none coming out.
That's dope.
Absolutely none.
Well, you were also, I mean, I guess I was in state too. Chapman was a private school, so I do think it was like kind of expensive. But, you know what's crazy, just on the note of student loans, because I think it's worth mentioning. Like, think about it, right? If you were to go buy a house, let's say is $1 million, and they're going to look at your financials. They're going to assess if you can afford the house or not.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
So
this is crazy.
What's insane to me is a bank is going to look at your money and be like, okay, you made X amount of money this year. You're going to need to put this much down, and cool, we approve your loan. We're going to lend you this money. Isn't it kind of insane that like student loan lenders literally look at a broke student and be like, oh, they have no means to pay for this now, nor will they have any means to pay for it as a broke kid out of school. But yeah, here's $200,000.
Yeah.
That to me is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah. No,
and it cripples people, you know?
The system is rigged against you because if you go to buy $1 million house and you can't afford it, the bank's not going to lend it to you. You're like, no, like you will not be able to pay this. You can't afford it. They will not lend you the money. You can get a student loan, period. Like they'll just, here's the money, and you're just crippled. And now
you know what's so crazy about that? Because student loan, they give money out to anybody. The ecosystem around school, around loans or going to universities has inflated because now textbook manufacturers know that, oh, we'll just make our textbook $500 because they can literally just get a loan for any amount, and any student can get a loan for any amount. So like literally it's kind of like the cost of goods circling the university program have such these like crazy inflated rates. Some of my college textbooks, I kid you not, because we've made some ads for our film program, like for the price of it literally was like a $500 textbook that I maybe opened once, and it was just because I had to have it for the class.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's just so dumb.
I just remember, like, I mean, again, it's hard for me to understand it from the other side, like from people coming out way in debt, but like I was able to be on that side of like, obviously like it was taken care of and I didn't come out of debt, school out of debt, but like had it been put in front of me, like, hey, go to film school, pay $100,000, be $100K in debt, or don't, and figure this shit out and become a film. Like I think I genuinely would have taken that route because it was about my, was it junior or senior year where I was like, Mom, I don't think I'm gonna finish school. I'm just gonna go do this film stuff. Cause at that time I had started shooting the music videos for Kyle, Futuristic, Samson, Sam King, DY. And like, I started like growing a buzz, and I was like filming videos and starting to get paid and make money. And like, and I was just like, I don't need to be here. This film school, going to film school and getting a piece of paper at the end.
You were saying a lot of, maybe we can just dive right into it, that like your professors and your fellow students, like you were very much in a different lane where they were probably all going like the traditional like short film route. And not that that's wrong, but you were just going the music video route.
Yeah.
And I think back in like the 2012s, this is pre YouTube really blowing up and blossoming to like Vivo and what it's become.
This is like 2010, 11.
Back when YouTube was still seen as like where you would share like a silly, like, you know, chocolate rain or like, you know, like that's where like YouTube was just kind of like memes. You know what I mean? So people probably seeing like, oh, you make a YouTube
so
videos.
Yeah, this is the crazy story. I mean, that's hits right on that. So our senior capstone project, in which you had to make a final film from basically your 2 semesters that made up your whole like senior year.
It's like fall and spring.
Yeah, just like literally the entire year, your 2 full semesters. The first semester is like all the pre-planning, you know, your production book, script, idea, The second semester is all execution and then screening of that final project. And I was the only one to do the alternate, you know, project, which was like, if you're not doing a short film, you need to do 3 music videos.
Oh, that was an option.
That was the alternative option that was like, no one really did, because it was like, yo, you make your short film. And I was like, yo, I'm already shooting music videos. I'm just going to turn 3 of these in.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I was shooting for Kyle and DUI and all that stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to turn these in.
Devil's advocate, was there no part of you that was like, you know what? Yeah, I want to use this as an opportunity to like actually make something?
Absolutely not.
You were already so over it that
I was already so over it, and I was making money, making music videos. They were fun. I was loving the journey of it, the come up, and I was just like, I don't want to go make a film. And at the time, like my passion was like the YouTube and these music videos and working with artists, and I was starting to grow a buzz and a following, and it was like, cool, that was fun. And so I was like, I'm just going to turn 3 music videos in. And so like, I just didn't do any of the like planning
like
stuff.
The binder and all
that stuff. So it would come around to me in class, you know, these checkups and how are you doing and where are you at? And it'd be like, I remember this so vividly in the directing class with this professor. He's like, and now we come to Jake, who we all know doesn't have anything to show, blah, blah, blah. Because
could you get like a merits docked if you didn't have
I don't know. So that was the crazy thing, right? But as a result of that, obviously he pulled me into his office hours to talk, and he like straight up said to me, I could fail you right now. You're not following the curriculum, blah, blah, blah. Cause like, yeah, I didn't have this pre-production book and stuff. Cause I was just like, yo, I'm just going to turn in these music videos that I do. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it seemed like you were pretty checked out at that point. Dude,
anyways.
Yeah. And so this is the time where I was like, Mom, I don't need to finish film school. Like, I'm just going to, and she's like, no, you're going to finish. Like, you've made it this far. And I was like, all right. But anyways, during that office hour meeting, he's like, I remember this. He's like, I could show your work to 5 directors I know right now, and they would all say it's not good.
That's
like
crazy.
That it sucks. It was something like that. And I just remember going like, do it, because it doesn't suck. Like, obviously I'm not, you know, Spike Jones or whatever, but it's
crazy.
Like,
as an educator, you're supposed to like lift people up. And to me, it seems so crazy that he would take the approach of like really trying to bring you down.
Yeah. And so I remember I had a couple music videos done at the time where I was just like, yo, I'm getting hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube. Like, these people would say differently kind of thing. And
That's funny that you hit him with that.
Yeah, and I just remember pulling up one of the videos, and it was a pretty raunchy video that I shot that with Kyle and Mr. Man. And
like a bunch of chicks and stuff?
No, it was like we did a child's birthday, and they were like the clowns, the entertainment for the party, but they're like cussing, and there's all these like little kids in the video at the birthday party, and they're like the entertainment, but it's just like the bad Santa.
Like, nice.
And he was just like, yeah, it was not impressed whatsoever. It was just like, this is basically garbage trash, but he was like, I could fail you right now. And it's just crazy that he just went to the lengths of like, I could show you this to 5 directors. They would say it sucks. I could fail you, and I'm out here literally making stuff that none of these kids in our class are making right now. Not a single one of them. And I'm getting paid to do it. Like, and I'm building an online presence of like where I'm getting hundreds of thousands of views.
Yeah, it's wild.
And like none of that was like praised or like, hey, well, this is good that you're doing this.
You know what's crazy too? Literally, not even joking, every single one of my friends, director, cinematographer that left film school, given that they have all these student loans, the first jobs that they end up doing are music videos, because it's like not the lowest hanging fruit, but it was just the easiest opportunity. Apple is not going to give this to some cinematographer out of school. Commercials are obviously reserved for like higher experience levels, but music videos, like you said in the past, like everyone's got a friend who's a musician. Like literally, it's so funny that he like dismissed music videos, because that's like actually like the most lucrative way to make money when you're starting out.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So,
and it's like, it's the closest thing to the art form of like filmmaking as well, because like, you know, an easy way to make money starting out is like obviously like weddings or little like branded content for local businesses and stuff. But it's like the music video portion of it is much more closer to like filmmaking than that stuff.
Than like a wedding or something. Yeah,
so,
for sure.
No, that was like crazy. And I remember that just so vividly, that teacher. And funny enough, like years later, I mean, he's obviously followed me on Facebook and kept up with everything and was like messaging me, and I just wouldn't respond to his messages. And he'd send me a link to his film, like a new film he had done, you know, and this is, you know, mind you, like probably 8 years later after I've built this career for myself in LA, and then I wouldn't respond. He's like, "Oh, you're not going to respond to your college professor?" Like, or da 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 da. And I was just like,
you were a dirtbag.
Yeah, you were awful to me, bro. And he asked me to come back. Would I ever be, hey, would you come back and speak to my directing class? And da da da.
I would just be like, yo, dude, don't listen to that word.
Oh, I so badly wanted to do that. Just come in and be like, hey, don't listen to people like this guy right here. And just like, that would have been hilarious. But I'm not like vindictive or spiteful like that.
But I think it's worth mentioning because, I mean, I would think that maybe some people watching or listening are, you know, maybe at that precipice where maybe film school is something they're considering. I also feel like I've touched on it before, but like, I think we all have an idea of where we want to go, right? And when you're starting out, maybe where you want to go is becoming like a big music video director. Maybe you want to be the next, you know, Christopher Nolan. So like, obviously there's A and point B, and a lot of people think film school is kind of like a very major part of that path to get to that final destination. And I think your story speaks on, there's a way to obviously completely circumvent the system and still get somewhere, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people think that film school is kind of like the barrier to entry to pursuing filmmaking seriously.
Yeah.
So it's tricky because I think a lot of people kind of like are wondering what the right way is.
I mean, there is no right way. Everyone's path is different, and you know, that worked for me, and maybe it probably wouldn't have worked for some other people, you know what I mean? And it's like, especially because I feel like I had much more of those characteristics that could also connect with music artists than maybe one of the more dorky, nerdy film school that couldn't build that, like those relationships and those friendships that turned into like video after video to the YouTube channel to like connect, like so it's just like everyone's path is different. But like I had, you know, a similar story in the cinematography course, you know, with those music videos. It was like, I'm already doing all these music videos, and our senior kind of thesis project in the cinematography, because that was directing that I talked about that whole, I didn't even touch on the final thing. So I turned in those 3 music videos at the end for my, you know, capstone thesis is what they called it.
Snobby students stoked off it? Or?
So it was the Sam King highlights video, SK4MC highlights. It was
that was all the black light?
Yeah. It was DY New York Times, the black and white one, which is very short film-esque. If you watch it, like it's very like it is music video, but there's no traditional performance music video. It's like a narrative driven thing. And then the last one was I forget what the other one was, but I turned that one in. But I remember I showed those. We were in the theater, you know, at the school, and we showed him, and the teacher came up to me and apologized afterwards. And he was like, "Those were very, very good." And you know, I'm sorry. He did apologize for like being hard on me and whatnot. It was just like, those turned out great and whatnot. But yeah, I turned in just 3 music videos I had done and got paid for.
Let's be honest, how were the other short films?
Yeah, garbage. And they probably spent, you know, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 to, I don't know, to make
crazy
these
on
things.
top of their tuition. I think a lot of people may not understand too is your tuition simply gets you into the school. If you're a director, in most circumstances, you are also funding and financing your own film from the locations, camera rentals.
They spent a year of their life trying to make this short film that cost them money, got them nowhere, while I was making money, building relationships, building a following, and like came out with like not having to, like, it was just like, so it's I just, that whole side of things was weird. But again, going into the cinematography, we had a cinematography like capstone, and the capstone for that was we just had to like build a reel. We had to pick one subject and make a reel, and my subject was like, it's going to be music videos. So like I literally just made music video as my thing. And so it's very interesting for the final, you know, our final was showing this reel, and how we had to do it is we had to sit up at the front of the class like this, and there was a TV at like our backside, and we had to sit and look out over over all our classmates who are watching the TV right there.
Why is it set up like that?
I don't know. They were watching
our like grimace, like
dude. So we had the TVs up on the wall, and our reel is playing. Well, we have to sit, not watch our reel, and just watch our classmates watch the film, like, or watch the reel.
How was their reaction?
Bro, it was so odd. So
well, they're like, oh, this is cool.
There's 2 days. I was the last day, second day. The first day, everyone's playing the reel, and you're supposed to start with positive feedback, then give your criticism. And like, mind you, these reels were like flowers and like
kind of cheeks.
Nature, just like the most. They're not. You don't have anything to shoot when you're at that stage. So you're like, this person's.
And they're probably using like the camera from the school or like.
Yeah, and so it'd be like a reel of like just random shots of people. And it'd be like, that was their cinematography reel. And it's like, I get that, right? But like, then someone would be like, bro, I love the way you did this and this.
Out of
and
focus.
Oh yeah, the shallow depth of field. And then there'd barely be any negative feedback, right?
Sure.
Barely. Because again, most of these kids were all like friends and homies and da-da-da. I always sat at the back of the class, and I just remember. So but I remember towards the end of that second day, I was like so fed up, or no, the first day, sorry, so fed up with everyone just like praising each other. I'm sitting there like, are they watching the same thing I'm watching? Like, are they really
they're all
gassed
drinking
about
the Kool-Aid,
this? Yeah. And so this video plays, and this guy immediately just goes, man, I loved this and that. And I just, out of nowhere, because you're supposed to like raise your hand, the teacher calls on you, give feedback. And without anything, I just said, are y'all watching the same thing I'm watching? Just out loud from the back. Everyone like turns their head. And I was like, that wasn't good. I was just so fed up.
Had yours already played at that point?
No.
Okay.
I hadn't played. So that's setting the scene. And so I just hadn't, like, I would never say anything. I was quiet. I always sat at the back. I just mind my own business. But I was so like just taken aback by everyone just gassing each other up over like shots of flowers and like nothing. And so she was like, well, Jake, you got to give positive feedback, negative, raise your hand, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, this is how I feel. And I was like, that was good, great. But like, and so now, mind you, that was the first day. The second day was my turn, and I get up there, and I just remember this.
And probably the most like insane like cinematography.
Oh, it
shots.
was like all the early like the stuff with Kyle, futuristic, Sam King highlights, and like
which
all
is like,
those
how'd you like
videos
learn?
playing,
Let
like,
me ask you this: like, were you to learn how to do all the blacklight stuff? Was that something you like took from film school and did in the video?
Just messed around on set till it looked good, figured it out.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, we need way more black lights than this. And like, you know, I think at the time I was shooting on like a T2i. That's when I had bought my T2i.
For
and
sure.
was like shooting stuff. But anyways, like saucy music video reel with a lot of diverse stuff in New York, stuff in California, all the blacklight stuff, all the stuff with futuristic. Like there was a good breadth of like work.
I bet they didn't have much
compared to all this other stuff people were showing. And I literally show the reel and I'm just watching. It's such an awkward setup.
Yeah.
And then like it ends. Nothing. No one says anything.
I mean,
it's just like
people were speechless.
It's just like dead quiet. And then like the teacher, I'll never forget her. She goes, so does anyone have anything to say? Like trying to like, and she's like, okay, I'll start. And she just like immediately, but the first thing she went into was something negative. And I just remember she said that it was all over the place. It'd be like bright and colorful, and then it was too dark and moody. And I needed to be more consistent with the way the shots played out in the reel. And like, I was just like, and then like, I don't even remember. I think I was so taken back by no one saying anything and like opening up, because everyone was always jumping in and saying stuff. And then her like kicking it off and then saying like that my reel was all over the place. And I'm like, bitch, like all over the place. Yeah, it's all over the place. I'm all over New York, California, shooting the dopest shit in the world, you know, any of these kids have ever seen from a kid's reel. Yeah. And I just remember.
That's wild.
And I just remember only one kid like raised his hand. He was like the one kid that I would somewhat talk to in class. And he said something positive and also gave me some critique. And
no one else?
That was it. Nothing. No one else. And I just remember I was so like, I didn't even know like what to think. And I remember I was in the hallway waiting for my mom to come pick me up from the class and everything. And I'm sitting in the hallway, and two of these people come out from, you know, the class, because the other people were waiting. Some people had rides and left or had other classes and left, and they come out and they were just like, they came up to me and they're like, hey, so do you like, that was all your work? Like do you get paid to do that? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, that was so amazing.
Like,
and I just remember going, what the fuck, bro? Like,
yeah,
where were you 20 minutes ago?
That's crazy.
And they had all these questions like, so do these artists hit you up? Do you get paid? Like, how did you like, and they were just amazed. They're like, that was so cool. And I was just thinking like, so I think that story completely sums up my film school experience and why 100%. I just thought it was trash and I hated it. And it was just weird between me, teachers, the students. It was just
especially whack. Since you were already in your own lane doing your own thing. And
I don't want to sound like a cocky, arrogant asshole. That's genuinely what happened in my experience at film school. Like that, none of that is false whatsoever. And I guarantee you, if I could go find all those people on Facebook and stuff right now, they could probably attest to that same thing. So I don't know, crazy.
I'm going to kind of share my past at film school, but I think first you mentioned we did have like a sponsor or an ad break.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, we did.
Do you want to kick that off or?
Yeah. So today's sponsor, we have a sponsor, right?
I think it's Squarespace. No, I don't.
Storyblocks.
No. Oh, I don't. Yeah, that one didn't work out. No, but I think there was this lighting course that we actually did.
Oh yeah. It's the Tropicolor lighting course that you could get. But
in all seriousness, we kind of thought today would be a good episode just to at least mention it. Yeah. Obviously, we don't want this to come off as corny. Like, obviously, no. I mean, legit, we took a year of our lives during the pandemic and recorded like 100 lectures on like what we do. Not to say our lighting is gospel, but it really is like the stuff that's got us through our careers.
Correct.
And like the best things that we picked from film school and our professional set. So if you do want 100+ lighting lectures on the things that we've done in our career, features, music videos, commercials, we have it. We'll link it below. Yeah, it's called the lighting course. And I just thought this would be a funny episode to kind of touch on that it exists for everybody.
Yeah, so that's our, sponsored post, tropicolor.com. Get it under the courses tab, Tropicolor lighting course, which was, it's a good course.
Maybe one
program.
Day we'll get Squarespace.
Maybe one day we'll get some sponsors on here. Yeah, I like that we don't like have sponsors and try and push stuff. So
well, there's some podcasts that legit within like a 10 or 15 minute podcast, it's like 3 ad reads. I'm like, yo, chill. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, chill, bro, chill.
But getting into that's crazy, by the way.
Yeah. Wild stories.
I think what's actually kind of cool about this episode is instead of both of us just completely bagging on it, I actually had a pretty positive experience at Chapman. So I think now someone can watch this and see 2 polarizing stories and experiences, and now they can discern from those stories and instances if that's going to work for them. So yeah, I went for 3 years. I would have gone for 4 years, but as I mentioned, I went to junior college or city college for a couple of years. So a lot of like the GEs, I was able to knock out, which I will say is kind of a pro tip because, when you're at a private university, the price per unit, as I mentioned earlier, like it kind of shakes out to be like $1,000 a day if you like really did the math. So it's crazy. Like it was only like $30 to $60, I think, for a unit at a city college. Like it was so cheap. You know what I mean? And some classes are only like 3 units, so it's like only like $200 to take this class for like a whole semester. You know what I mean? So I was able to knock off literally requirements, my math, history, some stuff that my thought was like, let me knock all this stuff out now when it's like super dirt cheap and it's low stakes at a city college. That way, when I get to Chapman, I don't have to like miss out on opportunities on going on to set because I'm taking like a history class or a math class or something. So I was able to knock out all that BS beforehand. So when I got to film school, the school's like, hey, it is a 4-year film program, but the first year is all GEs, which you did at City College. So we'll make it a 3-year program for you.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, that not for me specifically, anyone who transferred in, it was 3 years. And I just did it for 3 years at Chapman. And I had a pretty good experience. I will say, as I mentioned, some of the instructors like you, maybe not to that degree, weren't the best, but I also had some amazing teachers. Like I literally had a teacher who shadowed at, or I don't know if it was shadowed is the correct term, but also I think moonlighted was the term. Like they moonlighted over at AFI, which is the best film school. It's like a master's program. So like literally I'm having instructors that also teach at these insane other schools as well. So I'm like kind of getting that knowledge from these cinematographers. And mind you, the one cinematography teacher I had, he had shot like a bunch of movies and he was just like, I think like 60 or 70. So he was like just retired and just wanted to like give it back. And we would just like watch clips all day from his movies and like break them down. And like, I don't know, it was like I actually really got a lot from that. Yeah. So I would say the biggest thing I got out of film school was the connections.
Yeah.
Like walking away with people is an invaluable resource. And if you're trying to go to LA or a city I will say, and you don't know anybody, going to a school, there's going to be so much camaraderie from like working on each other's movies and like that, walking away with like ACs and gaffers. Cause like when I left Chapman, I was very much pursuing cinematography. I walked away with a team of people that actually really helped me inform our work together.
Yeah.
Because as like Zach earlier mentioned, like when we did that thing video, I brought all my Chapman friends on that from like an AC and Steadicam. And like, as he mentioned, it really elevated that video.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
100%. So. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people will ask me like, where can I find like-minded people? How do I build a team? Can I join your team? And I think film school does, or it can do that. Not that it does. It doesn't, I'm not going to say it does do that, because for me, didn't do that, right? But for you, it did that. So film school can help you, if you get into the right one and you're, around the right people, you can build that little like core squad and team that leads into stuff. Cause like all the early stuff that we started doing when I moved to LA that you were the DP on, all of those people, like even those early Air videos, it was all your Chapman
I think it was
friends.
like Lauren, it was Cooper, John Luke. Mind you, I met John Luke at the City College, but like I brought a lot of people on Harrison, like people from my, you know what I mean? So it was very helpful to like, I would say I learned some nuggets of info in class, but most of it actually, like I said, I'm a visual learner. So
I'm learning. Miss like those early days in the comment, like when you look back, or do you think you miss it now because like if you do miss it, like, do you think you miss it because it's like, it feels so nostalgic and like you're in a good place now, but if you were in a trash place, I don't know. Like I sometimes look back and I'm like, damn, like I miss those days, but at the same time, I feel like, no, I don't. I'm like, great now. I'm cooking. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's always a weird thing.
I'll be honest. I do kind of fondly look back at like, cause I think as we mentioned in that, sponsored read, we'd made a lighting course and for a year, during COVID, literally pretty much locked at home, edited a whole, kind of curriculum, if you will. And in doing that, I went through all the behind the scenes because you have been very good about documenting your whole journey and our journey. So for like the last 10 years, I have all this behind the scenes footage and it was definitely like a trip down memory lane. I'm like finding footage from like 2013 and 14. I'm like, damn, like this is really trippy to like see like what we were doing and, so, and it kind of made me think about that sort of come up. And I do miss it in the sense that it was just like a completely different time. And back then it's just like you're in a completely different headspace. Cause like, I think back then, this is before we had a lot of the companies, mind you, I think you already had some success with your YouTube channel and stuff, but I was definitely in that sort of like grinding check to check and like trying to just make it as an artist. And, I kind of, not that I didn't enjoy those jobs, but a lot of the things I did just did out of necessity. So I am fortunate to be in a position now where I can choose the jobs I want to do versus like, I'll take that. And I've done a bunch of those, not even with you, with just other directors where it's like just doing it for a rate. So I don't miss that aspect of it.
I think there's something about like what I miss is more like the like air quotes trying to make it, like that grind of like trying to make it and become something. And then you kind of reach a point where essentially, I mean, not that I'm saying that I've made it, but like if you would have asked my high school self, like at one point would you have considered yourself like make it, you're good, like if you were to tell me what my life is now, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's it. Like you know what I mean? And so I
feel
don't know,
we're always kind of searching for the next peak. I don't think we've ever, and I would hope to think I never arrive because like when you're at the base level, right? And you're looking up at the peak, you like do everything in your power to climb to that peak. And then once you reach that summit, you're kind of looking at the next hill,
summit.
And you're like, all right, now I'm going to climb that. And I feel like that's like your whole life is just kind of scaling this mountain. I'm 30. I literally just turned 30. I would actually be very depressed if I feel like I reached the summit and I'm just like, cool, I'm at the top of the mountain. Life is good. It's like, I always want to be climbing towards something. And I feel like me and you are at a point now where we're looking back at the previous peak being like, damn, that was a cool climb. But I also am like very excited for this
That's
next.
That's a good way of putting it. Like, yo, that was a dope climb. Like that was fun.
But I'm also like looking at this mountain in front of us. I'm like, dude, I'm also stoked to climb this. And like, I don't feel like, I know this analogy is kind of getting long winded, but I feel like it's kind of fun to go climb a different mountain opposed to climbing the same one your whole life. Like I've echoed this in the past. Like I would, if I literally just grinded my whole life, like, maybe I'm doing some cool projects, but like, I also feel like life is like the little moments in between those projects where you can like remember, like, traveling to Seattle and doing that project with you, or going to Georgia and shooting that war short. Like, I remember and will always remember those stories. And I feel like if I was just in like grind mode mentality, I feel like you miss out on like fun moments. You know what I mean? So
no, I agree. So in summation, film school for me, didn't get much from it. I learned most of my stuff from going out in the real world and shooting these music videos and making connections and doing things. I kind of had a kind of a pretty whack film school experience. I learned most of what I was doing from just going out and doing it. Yes, I took some things away from film school, but for me, like, I'm just one of those people that could have done without film school, and I kind of made it without film school, if you will. You know what I mean? And
that's dope.
For you, it seems like you enjoyed it and you liked it, and where it really helped you was those connections and those relationships that really spawned those early projects, which led to bigger things.
Because for me, you mentioned those capstone projects you had to do in your directing class. As a cinematographer at Chapman, I was the DP of all those basically capstone or thesis projects. So I left Chapman with like 6 to 7 like very, very polished, fully cohesive short films that I DP'd. And like, that was actually a big, big thing. And if that's something you're looking to do, is just building your portfolio as a DP, I can't say the same for directing. And I actually think every film school is a bit different. Just solely speaking from Chapman from 2013 to 2016, I was able to like make some connections and walk away with some cool short films. The curriculum in between, kind of whatever, honestly. But yeah, I think definitely it's a very polarizing subject. That's I think why we wanted to talk about it, because it's so circumstantial to what city, when you're going. Now might be different than when we were going, might be better, might be worse, and just like what school in general. And I also think like you have to you get out of it what you put into it. And if you like really sort of bunker down, focus on it, make your intention to meet people and make cool stuff, you probably will do those exact things. And it seemed like you were already having success elsewhere. So maybe not being able to put too much into it kind of didn't really work in that instance, because obviously you were just kind of on your own lane, you know? Yeah.
So, I mean, there again, no path is, the right path for everyone. Everyone's path is different, and you should never look at like, oh, because Jake did that, that's what I should do, and if Tom did that, that's what I should do.
This is simply like, why?
Just weigh your options. If you feel like you shouldn't or can't go into that kind of debt to go to school, and you think you could potentially learn online what you need to and just get your physical real world access by like getting on sets and reaching out to people or interning with a production company or whatever, then like, weigh those options and really think it through. For me, I don't like debt or things looming over me. And, my path worked out for me. Your path worked out for you. Our paths were very different. We ended up meeting, aligning, and we built what we've built together. So there's no right or wrong path. Those are both our takes and stories on kind of like film school and input. And
I would say, I think the best tip I can give you guys, if it's something you're seriously considering, is, as I mentioned before, City College was an extremely affordable way. Even if you have no intention to go into like a 4-year private university, simply just going into a city college in your local city, or maybe a city you want to move to, and just taking some film classes. A, you're going to learn some stuff, but B, you're going to meet like-minded individuals at a very low cost, because city colleges, I think, just with like certain tax ordinances, have to be a lot more affordable, and you're not getting, because private institutions can charge whatever they want. So I think, obviously the kind of value I'd love to provide for y'all is city colleges are a great way to meet some people, which you can do, and maybe kind of foster some connections and stuff. So
I think that's the biggest thing within the industry. Just period at any level
all the time, bro.
Who it's like, you were the DP of all my projects because I knew you. I wasn't just reaching out to random people or random people that hit me up. That like, you were the DP of my stuff because I knew you, and we built what we built. And so it's like, more than anything, a successful career is going to come off of the relationships and connections that you built. So more than anything, learn what you can online and go make connections, and just try and,
because that's the other thing. You could watch all these YouTube tutorials, but if you don't have like a team of people, it's kind of useless. Because if you get on like any size production, you're going to, you quickly learn that you need the focus puller, the gaffer, the art department, and you can't do all those things. So it's like, definitely, yes, I think there's an abundance of information to be learned online in any capacity, whatever path, but the people that only really comes from like seeking people out. So I would say City College or Facebook groups, but I don't know. Just kind of thought we'd do a little quick take on film school.
Love it.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Learn.film or tropicolor.com/courses.
Got some great stuff on there. Honestly, no joke, like really did put a lot of effort in it. It wasn't like one of those things like, all right, cool, we'll make this over the weekend. Like we were legit bunkered down for a year and just like carved it out. And I think I'm really proud of the curriculum and the stuff. And we still to this day get people DMing like, yo, this was super helpful. So and it's only like $150. It's not too much.
It's cheap.
I mean,
That's
back
nothing,
to that note
bro.
is like that textbook that I read twice. I kid you not, it was like $500.
Yeah,
and it like it's so insane to me. So
that's crazy.
But anyways, thank you guys so much for listening and watching.
Yeah, like, comment, subscribe if you're, watching on YouTube. It really does help. We want to try and get this podcast out to as many filmmakers, entrepreneurs, creatives as possible. So it would really mean the world if you could do one of those things and share, tag us on Instagram or, link, whatever. We want to get this out there more. Appreciate those that, have been watching every episode. So, and then on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. If you haven't yet, give us that 5 stars. You feel me, dog? You know what I mean? So, from Tom and Jake,
Been a quick take. Cheers.
You already know.
Sheesh.